Okay, we're almost at a minute, at 12 noon, and I just want to say we're going to give ourselves one more minute just to make sure, because I did say 12 o'clock, and I want to give people an opportunity to be here if they really want to be here. And just to make some announcements, we are at 12. So I just want to make some announcements before we get started. I want to say thank you for participating in Courageously Alive, the Courageous Conversations Fireside Chat. This morning, I do have a special guest. This is Aly Johnson. And before I get started in introducing Alicia, I do want to say that in today's session, we are going to record this, which we typically don't do, but Aly has a podcast that she does on her own. And in lieu of doing her podcast, she's going to use this recording for her podcast. So I want to say that if you're not used to me recording anything, this is one reason we're recording in this session. So I hope that doesn't bother anyone. But in the meantime, I want to introduce Aly Johnson. She is my very special guest. And Alicia is a financial planner and also a podcast host. And I want to give her an opportunity to introduce herself. I was actually a guest on one of her podcasts.
Yeah.
And so as we talked, I actually found out more about her and what she's doing in terms of financial planning and supporting other people who are interested in leaving a lasting gift for their families and loved ones. So with that being said, Alicia, hey, take the floor.
Good morning, good afternoon now.
Yeah.
Good to be with you again, you brilliant lady, Tanya Brewington. So excited to be a part of your platform. Honored to be a guest, actually, because, I know that we have the same heart for people and, helping them to live courageously. I just think that's awesome. And this is definitely a courageous conversation.
Yes.
It talks about money and leaving a legacy. A lot of times people kind of veer away from those type of conversations. So I applaud you for, doing this for your followers so they can be more informed. But like you said, I have a show that I've been doing for 4 years now. And I thought at one time, I was like, why am I doing this? I'm not doing this anymore. But now, I see the purpose behind it. And I think when you see the purpose behind what you're doing, then it just draws you. And so again, that's why I became a money coach, to help, because I struggled with money for a long time. And I'm not going to say I'm a millionaire yet, but I'm more hopeful. I know I can get there. I know there are steps that I can take. So I just want to help somebody else along the way. So that's a little bit about me.
Okay, great. So what's the name of your podcast?
Making Connections with Aly.
Making Connections with Aly. And how can people find it if they're interested in doing that?
So we are on Facebook. We have a YouTube channel and we air every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Saturday at 12 noon. And so, and we have a Calendly link, calendly.com/Making Connections TV. If you're interested in being a guest or you want to suggest a guest for the show. And you can also reach out to me at info@AlyJohnson.com.
Okay, awesome. Well, I appreciate that. Now, let me tell you why I was interested in having this conversation. I listen to a lot of podcasts. And so one of the podcasts I listen to talks about people doing what is called do-it-yourself financial planning. Estate planning is what it is. But what I also realized is that for many people, especially, I don't want to say especially, I want to say for many people, this is something that we bypass because we don't really understand the significance of estate planning, not just doing planning for what happens at the end of life or, making sure you have insurance like health insurance, but as a bigger plan, a bigger process to make sure that whatever you have, no matter how big, no matter how small, that there is a plan for all of it so that at the end of life, when you're no longer alive, that whatever you have, the assets that you have can be transferred and help to build financial wealth or inheritance. You can generational wealth for
Right.
your family and for your friends, and for your loved ones, really, not so much for your friends, but really for your loved ones. And so that really became the motivation for this. And I was really interested in finding out more about what it would look like and what it would take to do some do-it-yourself options. Now, I'll tell you, I really wanted to push this with my family. And, some people in the family are like, oh, I don't really have a lot. Oh, I don't know if this would really make sense. I don't know if I need to do this. So why does this wind up being an important consideration for people to make when it comes to their family and their lives?
Well, one thing I found out in conversations is like you're saying, the question is really, why do we not do certain things? And I think it's several things. We don't understand, like you're saying, what it means, how it works, how it would benefit us. We don't have time to do the research because we're like, there's so many options out there. I'll get to it later, but later never comes.
Mhm.
And then sometimes we think we just can't afford it. Or even like you said, well, I don't have much. I mean, I have a TV, I have a car, but okay, but that's your stuff. And you
Right,
want to make sure that your stuff is handled properly when you're not here any longer. You want to make sure that, even if it's a car, it could be gifted to somebody, a church or organization or something for somebody who doesn't have a car. So,
right,
as much as we think we don't have anything, there are people out there who have even less than we do.
right.
And so, it's just about, because we really want to get to that place where we're building residual income, where we make sure that our legacy, like you said, continues to exist. And part of that is in education,
Right.
because we want to teach our children why they should invest, because maybe we didn't. We didn't have the knowledge, we didn't take the time, but now it's time to teach them to do so they can leave a legacy for their children, so they can leave that inheritance. Somewhere there's got to be a shift in the trajectory from being broke and living in lack and struggle.
And week to week, month to month, paycheck to paycheck, right?
Say that.
Mhm.
I mean, that's a lifetime of stress. We're
Yeah,
trying to get you out of a life of stress and lack and never, because when you struggle so much, you just like, what's the purpose? You know,
right, right.
I know
Ex-
I can't do this. I know I can't take my family on vacation. I know blah, blah, blah. But no, in this season, in this day and hour, because a lot of times back in the day, it did cost you maybe like $25,000, $50,000 to invest. But now there are different levels. It's for the common person. You can get there. All you have to do is sit with your budget, start with your budget,
Right,
see
right,
what's coming in and what you truly have going out. And I've told people, get a manila envelope. We did this at church one time too. Every receipt for the month, I don't care if it's Starbucks, I don't care if it's gas, put that receipt in that envelope so you can truly see where your money is flowing. Because a lot of times we think we don't have the money to invest or start that estate planning, but we just don't really know where our money's going. Our
that's
Netflix that we never look at anymore, but we still
right.
paying for it
We
month to
still pay
month.
for it.
It's a lot of things.
Right.
I
It's
hope I answered your question.
you did, but I'll tell you what's interesting about what you just said. I do this whole thing where I take all my receipts and I have a budget sheet and I put all the information in there. And I missed like really September through November because I just did this at the beginning of this month or at the end of anyway, we're in December now. Anyway, I just recently did it. And I was collecting for all the months and it hit me how much money I spent on eating out. And I knew that I was spending money, but I also knew that I was traveling, I was doing a lot of things. But what really struck me was, oh my goodness, I am spending a ton of money eating out. And I spend so much more money eating out than even I do on buying groceries, which to me, you can cook and where your money is. For me, that's a big thing. Anyway, so it was based on what you're saying, it was so important because it was insightful. I mean, I had an idea that I was doing that, but to see the number made me say, oh my God, I've got to change this. This is big. I've got to do something different. And so I really appreciate you bringing that up because I think that is also part of it. You have to know where you stand before you can do something else. And the other reason I'm mentioning this is because there were things that I was like, oh, I can't really do this because I don't have the money to do this right now. But in looking at how much I spent, I was like, I could have done all this stuff with this little chunk of money that I spent
Right.
out, so it became very, very eye-opening for me as a result of doing that particular work.
And and the thing about it, I tell people, it's like sometimes you just have to sacrifice for a season. I'm
Mhm.
not saying you can't ever go to Starbucks or,
Mhm.
but if you think about it, you're running out of the house, you're getting a large caramel macchiato, the kids are getting hot cocoa. But if you think about it, they sell that at the store. There's like 6 or 8 packs in one box.
Right.
You come home, and you make this in the mornings and you have even more time at home, because if you've been to the Starbucks I've been to, that line is wrapped around the building. And so
Long,
then you're
yes.
fussing at the kids, "Oh, we gotta get out of the house." But just think about maybe, it could be a more calming experience in the morning. You're
Right.
making the hot cocoa with the kids. Every now and then they get marshmallows. And so it's just a sacrifice for a season to get some bills paid off, to get some things, squared away. But you can always treat yourself. I don't believe in not being able to do anything. I just
Mhm.
think you have to do it in the right timing and in the right order. You know what I mean?
It's not punitive, is what you're saying.
Right.
You don't need to punish yourself. So let me
Right.
give you some scenarios. I know that one of the foundations for building wealth has to do with insurance. And in the past 4 months, really, I've had 3 losses in my life that were pretty significant. I had a godson, stepfather, and father all pass away between August 1st and November 12th. So we're talking about a lot of stuff. And what wound up happening is I had different insurance scenarios that I was able to see for each person. They were vastly different. And what was interesting is how insurance, no insurance, or questionable insurance really impacted how the family moved through what they needed to do. There was a GoFundMe situation. There was an active insurance coverage. So you just went and, you just said, hey, yeah, this is covered. And then there was a situation where there was insurance coverage through a job. You had to wait and do some other things. And so when you're looking at insurance as the foundation, how do you recommend people approach that?
So there is, like you said, different ways. And, sometimes we do an overall, like we said, we start with your budget. We look at your debt, your income, if you have a mortgage, things like that. But I know that, like you're saying, I'm just going to say this. I feel so bad when people do a GoFundMe to have to bury their loved ones. Because to me, I'm like, okay, if we're doing a GoFundMe to bury them, what if they have a house? What's going to happen to the house? Is it covered? Are the children going to have to move or be separated from their parents? So GoFundMe's make me sad because I think there's not anything in place, and I worry about what happens next. And so that's what we're talking about, planning ahead. And
Mhm.
so even with insurance, sometimes you even just have to start where you can. Maybe you don't have enough to actually pay the house off, or, put the children's education aside, but start where you can and grow from there.
Mhm.
And even with having it on your job, sometimes you can't just rely on that, because that's a perk from your job.
Mhm.
And just as they allow perks, they can also do what?
They can take them away.
They can take them away. And you have no
Or if
control
you switch
over it.
jobs, it's like you're starting over. Yeah.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And you have no control of it. You don't know. I mean, you get what they allow you to have. So
Right.
and sometimes that's not enough. So you really have to look at each individual. I can't just say you need $300,000, but each individual, we take them as, an individual. We look at your budget. We look at who you're leaving behind. Like for me, I don't have children, but if I would go today right now, I have 2 elderly parents. So I put things in place where they don't have to struggle to close my house out, to pay my bills off. It's going to be there, and they're not going to have to take that out of their retirement funds.
Right.
So you really have to look at each individual, what they need, what they want to pay their house off. they have cars, just all those different things. But you definitely want to put something in place because, like you said, I saw a brother and a sister at their mother's funeral. They weren't, and I think we have to have these conversations with our family because they weren't really talking to their mom about that. They thought she had it covered. But as she got sick, she didn't pay the premium.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it was time to bury her, she had laid out what she wanted to do, but because the insurance policy wasn't in place, then the brother and sister were divided. And on the day of their mother's funeral, the last thing that gift that they could give to her, they didn't even speak to one another.
Oh, wow.
And
Wow.
so it's just so important
Yeah.
because that's a time when you're grieving. That's the time you want to come together and support one another, not being divided.
Right, right, right. So when you're looking at insurance, and let's talk about, you're saying that with that as a foundation, is that what you consider as a foundation?
Yes.
When you're looking at that, and you might be looking as an employee, but there are also people, I talk to a lot of people who are entrepreneurs and
Mhm.
self-employed.
Mhm.
And so when you're looking at the price and the cost of insurance under those circumstances, what kinds of recommendations do you have? I know you have options for term, you have options for whole, but what kinds of recommendations do you make in those situations?
Typically, I say go with term, simply because a whole life policy is going to cost you more money. And so we always teach buy term and invest the difference. So if you're paying $125 for a whole life, you might be able to get a term for 75. So
Mm-hmm.
that $50 difference, we say don't spend it, but invest it.
Mm-hmm.
So that it's growing, because at the end of a universal policy or whatever, you might be investing at two different levels, but I tell people to be careful about that because there's insurance policies where you can take money out of your policy, but you have to remember, just like anything you take out is going to add interest. And when you don't pay it back, they're going to take that money from your policy before they pay your loved ones.
Right.
So you really have to, do your diligence to figure out, again, what is good for you and your setup. How much you're going to need, what types are out there. Again, there's universal, there's term, and then when you're talking about being a business owner, you still have to have insurance on your business, just to save you, because what happens if you don't have insurance on your business? Then if something happens, you have a fire, if you do have a storefront or what have you, then that's coming out of your pocket to be able to rebuild. But
Right.
there's insurance out there for you to, rebuild your company and to keep you from going under while you're rebuilding.
Right. So I do have a couple people who are on, and I just want to say, if you are interested in adding to the conversation or asking questions of Aly, you can put the questions in chat in Zoom as well as on Clubhouse. You can do it in either platform. So what are when you talk about foundational information, the foundations of leaving your own lasting gift for your loved ones, what are your recommendations for that?
As far as specifics, or just like what I want people to think about, I just like for people to open their mind to options, right? So there are 4 quadrants. You can be an employee, which means like you have a job, so you have some income. There are people who, like you were talking about, become self-employed, but now you own that job, but still, if you get sick, then there's no money coming in. So then we move to being a business owner, where say if you're good at doing hair, maybe you open the salon, you're the owner, so you have other people working in your salon.
Mhm.
So in case you need to spend time with your parents or do something like that, you're still getting income. Then we like for people to get to that investor role. And an investor, you can still be an employee, because there's a lot of people who like their job, but when you start investing your money, then your money's working for you. You're no longer working for it. You just putting it in the right categories, whether it be mutual funds, bond funds, and now your money's working for you. So you're starting to build that residual income, just like an artist. He makes that song, he did all the work to produce it. Now he published it, it's released. But now every time somebody listens to it, he's getting royalty from that, that song. So we have to open our minds to not just be an employee, and you can still, like I said, be an employee. I know people who love their job. I'll still work a job myself, but at the end of the day, I still want that residual income so that if I do have to, maybe I have to start taking care of my parents on a full-time basis, is my job going to work with me to make that happen? So I have to put things in place in case they say, no, we don't want you to do that. I want you here 5 days a week, and we're sorry about your parents. Okay, well, that's okay. I have a plan B here. So,
Plan B, right.
so, but yeah, you just have to, you have to find out the information, mutual funds, bond funds, and can I share
Stocks?
something real
What about
quick?
stocks? Yeah,
Stocks and bonds. And so I'm
sure.
going to share my screen real quick and just go over a couple of things.
Okay.
Let's see. So on the screen, you're going to see, I know everybody on Clubhouse can't see what I'm seeing, but really nearly 8 in 10 workers report living paycheck to paycheck. 8 in 10. Nearly 60% of Americans have less than $1,000 in savings. The average household, U.S. household, carries a credit card debt of at least $16,000. And if you're paying just that minimum $50 a month, how long is it going to take you to pay that $16,000 off? And
Right.
and after you paid it off, how much have you really paid?
Exactly.
That we're talking about life insurance. The average gap in a household is $95,000.
What does that mean though, when you say the average coverage gap?
So, like we were talking about, especially when you're younger and you have a house, you have children. So, you want to make sure, like, if something happens to the breadwinner of the household, that income is still coming in. So we teach you how to, make sure that income is still available for the next 10 years. Maybe go ahead and pay that mortgage off. You can incorporate those things into your life insurance policies. You can put aside 50,000 or whatever you want to for your children, whether they want to go to college or a trade school, that money's there. So that's what we say that gap is, because people just say, well, I have enough to bury me.
Right. So let me ask you, when we're talking, because we mentioned term insurance and whole insurance, could you add that gap in on your term insurance policy, or is it just available for people who have whole insurance?
No, you can add that with a term policy.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So, there are some people who have different types of policies, and they do it for maybe their business, maybe for that gap, because it's cheaper than starting over with your whole life policy or something like that. So it's really different ways to really get there.
Okay.
And so 45% people say that they don't have, or they might have $25,000 for retirement. Now, I don't know about y'all, but 25,000 for retirement, no. That sounds like we're going to be at Walmart greeting the people, saying hello, how are you doing, and stuff like that. And I feel so bad sometimes. I know sometimes older people want to get out, but sometimes people nowadays, they really have to work for that gap, because they worked a job for 40 years. They were there 40 plus hours, but when you retire, what you get to live off on is like 40% of what you're making.
Right.
And I think people they don't think forward. We thinking for today. And so let me just ask you, well, I'm kind of already showing you, but if I gave you $1 and you put it into an account, and banks are giving you like 1% interest, don't look at the numbers. How long do you think it would take that dollar to double?
You're saying 72 years. I'm looking at it.
72 years, $1.
Right.
I was like, for $1 to double, you might as well just go ahead and put that under your mattress and add to it, But you can take, but at 6% interest, it takes your money 12 years to double. And then if you're investing into something that's 12%, giving you a 12% return, it only takes 6 years for your money to double.
Right, right.
And so just kind of putting some figures to this, let's just say, because I heard that theory, put aside $100 a month, but I was told to put it in a bank, but nobody really gave me the details of what I was going to get in return. So let's just look at this. And I know on Clubhouse, you can't really see the screen, but hopefully I'll explain it to you so you understand. But if you're saving $50 a month, and I pretty much say, I'll just talk about myself, I can blow $50 a month.
I think all of us can. I think all of us can. I
Yeah.
told you about my eating out budget.
Right.
It just happened, but go ahead.
Yeah. And so we're talking about a month, not even a week, but and you can break that down to set aside $12.50 a week. Anyway, but say we put this $50 a month into an account that's yielding us 1% interest. After a 35-year period, you're gonna gain $25,000. Again, $25,000, we've gained some money, but we can't retire off of that.
Right.
But let's say you put that same $50 in something like a bond fund that's yielding you like 6% interest. So you're doing better. So after that 35-year period, you now have just a little under $72,000. So that gives us more options. Still can't stay retired, but it gives us more options, right? But let's say we put that same $50 in something like a mutual fund that's yielding us 12% interest. So after that 35 years, we now have like $278,000, a little over $278,000. So
Okay.
for me, that gives me more options. That gives me money that I can play with, because at 25,000, I'm just trying to make sure all my bills are paid.
Yeah.
But at 278,000, I can still take some of that money and invest it somewhere else and keep it growing.
Right.
So these are just some of the things we talk about.
Okay, I have a question for you. So you're talking about over a 35-year period.
Mhm.
And many people in my community are not 35. They might be in their 50s.
Mhm.
So when you're looking at that and you're talking about saving the same amount of money, and you're talking about a shorter window for people who maybe just starting, or maybe, they started, they stopped, and now they're like, oh, let me jump back in. How you're talking about $50, and $50 may or may not be realistic at this point in order to get to these numbers.
Right, right. So, if you're like me, you started a little bit later, you might have to invest more if you can.
Right.
Or you can be like me, where I started maybe at 50, but as I started paying bills off, my credit started getting better, I invested more.
More.
So
Okay.
the thing is, wherever you are, whatever your age, you can start somewhere so that you can change that trajectory.
Yep. Okay, great.
So I'm gonna stop sharing. I think that's all I had.
Okay. So then I have another question. When you're, based on what you're saying, which is really interesting, and you're talking about investing, is it possible, or you're talking about investing, you're talking about doing bonds, you're talking about doing, what else was it?
Mutual funds.
Mutual funds. Okay. So then what about when it comes to doing it yourself? I know you can actually hire someone to do this, because whoever you hire would presumably have all of the knowledge about what the options are. But
Right.
what in this could you use as a do-it-yourself estate planning option? And do you consider this estate planning, or do you consider this just personal investing? I mean, or is there a difference?
Well, I think anything that you do for investing or what have you is going to affect your estate. So, if you're going to do it yourself, I just say, take the time, do the research, compare, your options, and, you just do your due diligence to find out, how am I going to get my return on my investment? How long will my return on the investment be? How do I leave this as a legacy for my family? What options, what do I have to put in place so that they have access to it when I'm gone, so it doesn't go through the state and the state get their part of the
They want to get their cut. So,
again.
what options do you have to consider in a do-it-yourself
My,
focus? And I'm not, and let me say this, I'm not suggesting anyone do it themselves. I'm just saying, in
right,
case you say, let me do some things now to get the ball rolling, and then I can actually get someone else involved. What would you say that people could do to get the ball rolling, so to speak?
Again, look at your budget.
Mm-hmm,
See what you have to invest.
mm-hmm,
See where you can, put something aside for a minute or for a year, what have you. So you'll know, and make sure it's something obtainable, because sometimes we'll be like, I'm gonna do this, but then it gets stressful. We see we're not getting our bills paid, and then we stop.
mm-hmm,
So you want to make sure it's something that you can continue doing so you can continue to grow.
mm-hmm.
So how much can you invest? Again, you have to figure out, where am I going to invest it? And that takes you getting online, figuring out how IRAs work. If you're talking about retirement, you have to know, am I doing this for retirement? Am I doing this short term because I just want to put some money in an account where I can get this money back out in 10 years and pay my house off because I'm getting ready for retirement? So
Right.
you have to know what you're doing this investment for. Is it for your children? I want to make sure that I have accounts set aside so when they're ready to go to college, I'm not stressed out. And then we don't have that conflict because they've been studying hard, getting good grades, but I still can't send them to college because I don't have the money.
Mm-hmm.
So you really have to know what you want your money to do for you.
Right. Right.
Depends on, where you invest it and how you invest it.
Right. So those are like the first things you have to consider, what you want your money to do for you. Look at your budget,
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Get the amount.
track your spending. I guess that's the thing.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. Track your spending.
Mm-hmm.
And then do what?
And then once you've decided, okay, I have $150 and I can invest this $150. You have to do your research on the companies you're going to invest in. Don't sit it in your savings account, because as we see, your savings account is only giving you 1% interest. Find a investment company that will diverse your investments. You have to tell say if you go with T. Rowe Price or somewhere like that, you have to research these companies and see, because sometimes they just take your money and they don't really give you a lot of options or a lot of customer support. So you want to make sure, if you're somebody who's new at this and you don't know how to invest, you want to at least make sure that there's good customer service. You can ask questions, you can change it, because sometimes when you invest, you can't change it till the end of that 10 years. So it's really a lot of work and you can do it by yourself. But I say at least sit down with a money coach and have a consultation.
Right. Right.
And
So,
then take
and then,
their suggestions and maybe sit with 2 or 3
right.
and then see the overlap, see where it works, and then do it for yourself.
So let me ask you a different kind of question. So you're saying invest, and then you're saying don't just put your money in savings, but what would the balance be in between having what I would say liquid funds and investing?
So investing is like you're talking about, maybe thinking about retirement and children or your elderly parents. So investing is something that's going to yield you down the road.
Mm-hmm.
That liquid asset money that you want to get quick is for emergencies.
Mm-hmm.
Your car needs 4 tires because you ran over and you went through a construction site and you got 4 tires. So, even that. So even talking about that, I want people, when they're looking at their budget, let's also get our credit score.
Mm.
Let's see what's being reported on our credit report. See if it's old debt that maybe you paid off and it just didn't come off your report yet. So you can contact your creditors and be like, can you get this off off my credit report? So really, when we're talking about money, there's so many things that you can do because let's say now you need a car.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been there. Honey, my credit was terrible. They were going to finally give me a car, but they were going to give me what they wanted me to have. And at the price I was paying for those payments over 5 years, I was like, man, I could have got like a BMW or something, and I'm driving this. So we have to think about all those things, paying our debt on time. So sometimes you need that those assets where you can um refer to for like emergencies, or if you
Mhm.
have this debt that you need to pay off in a certain amount of time, you have some money saved aside where you can pull from that fund, pay this debt off, keep your credit, keep building your credit score. Because let's say for me now at 53 years old, if I go to the car, I'm
I
gonna
know
get a
that's
much
right.
better interest rate. I'm
Yeah.
gonna be able to take my time and peruse around the car lot and choose what I want,
Mm-hmm.
not
Mm-hmm.
what they want me to have.
Right.
And so, I just feel like, because now you're paying $500 for something that a lemon,
Hmm.
and then you're frustrated, you're mad, and all this stuff really affects your health. It affects your estate. It affects your family household, your structure. So, money is physical, it's spiritual, it's emotional, it's mental, it affects your energy. So
Mm-hmm.
whatever you can do, and like I said, I think every step you take, every investment, every bill you get paid off, the credit score going up, all of that affects your estate.
Right. Right. So based on what you're saying, it sounds like there's so many different components. It's like really you're looking at your budget first, just to see where you are financially
Mhm.
every month. So you know how much you can use to really invest or do whatever. You're looking at your credit.
Mhm.
You're looking at the savings because it sounds like you should have some savings, even
Right,
though you are going to also invest.
right.
And then insurance also becomes something that you want to consider. So we have a comment from Ms. Stevenson. It says, understanding that each person has unique circumstances, but in general, how much should you have invested before you retire? That's a good question.
So, okay, say you're somebody who maybe you bought a house late in life.
Hmm.
Do you still have to pay on that house payment when you retire, when your retirement age comes? Are you still gonna have that? But just a general figure, I say everybody should really aim to have, I hate to say figures because then people get scared, but really depends on what your income is. Uh,
Say it. Just say it. Go ahead, Ally. Just say it.
Listen, if you want to give yourself options, you want to live well for some time, let's try to aim to have $200,000 at least, $250,000
That's a minimum
at
that you're saying
retirement.
before you retire. Okay, so then that means that for some of us, we can't retire at 62.
But see, I
Maybe.
don't want people to get scared and say they can't retire. So then maybe you say, well, let me work more now on paying my house off.
Okay, so you reduce in order to reduce the expenses and the debts that you have, is what you're saying.
Right.
Okay, okay. My
And
Clubhouse listeners,
okay.
do you have questions? But go ahead, keep going.
But yeah, and I'd say 250,000 simply because I mean, different people retire at different ages. We're living longer. So even if we retire at 67, but we're living to 77, I mean, that's 10 years. You need to be able to
Cover.
pay your bills, buy another car in case you need it, live well. And when I say live well, I mean, if you want to go out and eat, you can. If you want to go to Starbucks, you can. If you want to take a family vacation, you can. Because, I mean, I'm telling you, this really hit me because me and some of my friends were talking about it. We're just like, well, when we retire, what are we going to be able to do? So we're trying to live it up now because when we retire, if we're retiring off 40% of what we've been making, we already struggling. Now I'm gonna live off 40%.
Right, exactly.
So I tell you to aim big so that even if you don't need that, and if you reach 200 and you don't reach 250, at least you're still in a good spot.
Right.
And you still have money that you can live off of, but still causing it to grow, investing it to cause it to grow. So you still
So
have
you're
options.
you're saying 200 to 250 in a retirement fund, in an investment account, or savings, or a combination?
It could be a combination, because definitely at retirement, you want to have something because you're not having that steady. I mean, you'll have your social security if it's still around, but you want to have an account where you can, you're getting income from each month.
Each month,
So you
okay.
want to know that that's happening. But if you're able to still be investing and still growing your money, let that happen as well, because there, if I had listened and I understood and I had put that $100 a month, but sometimes we think we can't live without that $100 a month. But if you know what that $100 is going to do for your future, you're more willing to free that up.
Yeah.
And
I'm eating out so much. I'm talking about me, talking to me. Talking to me.
And then you can have, and there you can maybe even be living off the interest of your investment.
Right.
And that principal money is still there and still growing. So you don't even really have to invest anymore, but you're living off that interest that you're getting out every month.
Okay.
So yeah.
That makes
Ms.
sense.
Stevenson, how do you feel about when I said 250,000? How'd that make you feel? Let's talk about that.
Let's see if she responds.
Okay. And like I said, if that's what, you want to be able to give to your grandkids or what have you, again, then you start tweaking your plan. Let's pay this house off. That's doable.
That's doable.
Yes.
All right. Miss Stevenson said that 250 is
Come
doable.
on.
Awesome.
I'm proud of you.
Awesome.
That makes me happy.
I love it. I love it.
So that's good. And so it's a way to get there. That's what I want people to know, that it's a way to get there. It seems like, whew, I'm living paycheck to paycheck right now. How am I going to end up with $250,000? Like you said, I'm 55 or whatever. I only have these amount of years, but don't get stressed. It is obtainable. You just have to take the steps and do the work.
And this is where it really helps, I'm assuming, to get professionals, to enlist the aid of professionals to kind of help you navigate your way through that, so that you can set up a way to get to 200, 250 before you retire, or before you decide you choose not to work as much. And it may not be a full retirement, but it might be, I just don't want to work 40 hours or 80 hours or whatever it is you're working.
Right.
Reduce how much I'm working right now.
Right.
So, what does that what would that look like for me to be able to do that and still live comfortably?
Right. Right. Okay. And like I said, go to 2 or 3 different money coaches, get different opinions, see what they're saying, see where it overlaps, and then, make your decision. I definitely say, but we've got to change something. And even people who think, well, I'm living paycheck to paycheck, I'm going on this job. You're going to have to do something. I know for a fact you have to do something to break that cycle.
Yeah. But I think what's important, even in that, is that you really pay attention to where your money is going. Because like you said, and like I acknowledged, I wasn't aware of just how much I was spending on this one thing. Now, I knew that I was spending some money, but I didn't know what the number was. And when I saw the number, I was like, oh, I've got to change that.
Right.
And so I think even when you're saying, you have to do something, even the paycheck to paycheck, you may have more money than you think, but you don't know until you actually sit down and try to figure out where you're actually sending your money.
Yeah. And I mean, every receipt, and then,
Even online,
everything
because
is,
some people are doing a lot of things online, but you need to print those receipts out as well. So you can track everything.
And I was going to say, even those automated payments that come out, the Netflix and the Hulu, and I mean, Peacock. I mean, do you need all of them? You just have to ask yourself.
And cable. And cable, right?
Listen, I'm about that one right there is about to get me. And I'm just like, really? Now, I thought I was still on some kind of package. What happened? But see, you have to watch that kind of stuff, because then you're like, well, something's funky with my budget. But because you haven't looked and say, well, your package ended 6 months ago and now they're charging you an extra $85 a month.
Mhm.
That's where it is. But you have to be able to see it, and know it. So
Just have to know your numbers, right?
yeah.
So I just want to say, hey, thank you. I hope this has been helpful and informative so that you learn what it takes to begin the process of leaving a lasting gift for your family and your loved ones. And so I want to say, Aly, thank you. Are there any last kind of words you want to say to sum us up and take us out? And then I want to see if you have anything you want to promote, things that you want to tell people about, and you want any events that you have coming up.
Okay. So again, I know we were here to talk about leave a lasting legacy,
Mhm.
leave a lasting gift. And
Mhm.
so for me, I'm a spiritual person, so I know that salvation is a gift.
Mhm.
I know that, we have to do the work, but so many people have sacrificed already for us. God sacrificed his son. There are people who I think about Harriet Tubman every time I wanted, because I'm like, now if Harriet Tubman can, go through the jungle and tell 25 and bring 25 slaves out, I mean, I could tell 25 people about financial literacy, you know.
Right.
So it's just, I just feel like it's so important because I want families to start loving one another, encouraging, supporting one another instead of fighting. Because, like I said, money is physical, it's emotional, takes you to a mental place, it causes you stress, and stress kills you. So, my gift to the world is just to be able to help somebody to live a better life, because I know what it's like to have struggled and to struggle inwardly, because I didn't want my family members to know that what kind of place I was really in.
Mhm.
So when you go to your money coach, just be honest. And if you feel like they're judging you, then go somewhere else. They're not the only money coach around.
Exactly.
So go somewhere where you can truly be honest. And if you need to cry, cry, because I do that quite often. And if you need to cry about your situation, but that's okay. Cry, but be willing to do the work. Because the Bible says that we are the head and not the tail, the lender and not the borrower. We are above and not beneath.
Right.
So even though you feel like you might be borrowing right now, that can change. And then you can be the lender. You can give other people advice. You can tell people your story, your testimony about how you overcame.
Right.
So we're all working together to live well. And so I'm just here to try to really help people to build wealth inside and out. So,
Great. Great. And one more question came from Ms. Stevenson, if you're okay
okay.
with this.
Okay.
Should you pay your house off before retirement? And what's the tax situation that might surround that? I think that's the way definitely the question is, should you pay your house off before retirement? And then it says tax situation, two different questions, but I'm assuming that what would the tax implications be if you were to do that?
Okay. So, Miss Stevenson, I will say that I don't know all of those answers about the tax situation, but I am a part of a team where different people do different aspects. And if that's something you want to know more about, I can definitely reach out to you and, get some more information. Not necessarily, don't get worried. I'm not going to necessarily throw you in the dungeon with somebody, but I can get more information. But for me, and, we do try to tell people, if paying your house off is going to have more money in your pocket and bring you less stress. But if you have the finances in place where you can still make that house payment, but still live well. So again, it's based on each individual. But yes, I would say pay your house off, but I do not know personally the tax implications, but I can give you the information.
So let me play on her question a little bit. So if you
Mhm.
pay your house off before you retire, would that change anything about, and you may or may not know this because I hear what you're saying. Would that change what your tax situation looks like in going into retirement? Or if you just keep the house and keep the house payment and you're retired, does that lower some taxable income? I mean, I don't know. And I'm wondering if that perhaps is what she is questioning when
Right.
it comes to this.
And I think that's the taxation is the big piece of that question, and I honestly cannot
The
answer
second
that,
part. Yeah.
that part. But I know I have business partners who can, but
Okay.
I personally cannot answer. I don't want to say, and then I'll be completely wrong. So I'll admit I don't know that part, but I do have business partners that I can get that information from.
So this really is where you would have to take individual, you would have to look at a situation for each individual in order to
Right.
give them the best response
Advice,
for that,
right.
best advice for them. Okay, good. So then, Aly, how do people get in touch with you? First of all, can you go back? I mean, when you're talking about how to get in touch with you, tell people again how to reach your podcast, and then tell them how to actually reach you in case they want to get more information about doing whatever these components, especially the insurance, because I think the insurance is a key element to what it sounds like. It might be the base.
It's the
Aside from your
foundation.
budget, it sounds like it could be the basis for
Right,
what we're
right.
talking about.
Absolutely. And we make the insurance the foundation, and we build the house from there. So,
Okay.
but you can reach me again. I'm on Facebook, Instagram. We have a YouTube channel, but you can either reach me online at Aly Virtuous. Listen, you're gonna Aly Virtuous is my social media handle, or we also have a podcast, Making Connections with Aly.
Making
We
connections
air
with Aly, or Aly Virtuous. Aly Virtuous is your Instagram and your,
Aly Virtuous is like my personal page,
okay,
and Making Connections with Aly is my business.
is your business. Okay, great. And that's
Yeah.
for the podcast?
Mhm,
Okay,
mhm.
great. All right.
Yeah, and all of that is on Facebook, Instagram. Those are the two we use the most. You can watch our YouTube channel. Again, we air every Saturday at 12 noon and every Monday at 2 p.m. If you're interested and you have some more questions, you can send me email. See my name up there, Alicia. So you can do info@aliciajohnson.com. That's info@ALYSSIAJOHNSON.com. If you're interested in being on the show or you have questions about the show, we have a link that you can schedule a conversation, and that's calendly.com/Making Connections TV.
Okay, awesome. I appreciate that. So let me add two things.
Mhm.
Because I really appreciate the fact that you have come on. I just want to say thank you.
Absolutely.
Because when I talk about leave a lasting gift, I know this is like the end of the year. And I really believe that as people are preparing for
Mhm.
next year, this is one of the things that they should put in their plan as part of
Right.
their goal for the beginning of the year. And
Mhm.
so I just want to say thank you for coming on and talking about that, because I do know that it's important. I just want to also share that if you're interested in continuing with the Courageous Conversations Fireside Chat, next month, January the 7th, we're
Yeah.
talking about a brand new year and a brand new you. And my guest is going to be Angela Durant, who's a brand strategist and the CEO and founder of the Be Brilliant movement. And I think that, again, for those of you who have been exposed to Angela, you know about her. And even if you don't know her, she's a phenomenal person.
Yes.
She's like she's a courageous woman too. She does the whole courageous thing. But what I do know is that she can actually provide some good insight about how to step into the year as a brand new you, if that's your goal for 2023. So
Yes.
that being said, go ahead. Do you want to share something else?
And I'll say that she is definitely helping me step into 2023 because we're relaunching,
Mhm.
the show and what it looks like and what all the things that we offer. And so she has been helping me along the way. So I'm excited about relaunching, hopefully end of January,
Okay,
um,
awesome.
the new look.
Awesome, awesome. And she's the designer. Her company has designed the website for our business, courageouslyalive.com. So Angela is really, really a great brand strategist, and I'm really thankful
Truly.
for her support in this area. So with that being said, I just want to say thanks again, Aly. If you have any questions or you want to reach out to Aly, by all means do so on her podcast, as well as send her an email, info@aliciajohnson.com.
Yes.
And that's it. Do you have any final thing?
No, that is it. I just really, my thing is building wealth inside and out. And I just want everybody to be encouraged that you can get there, because I once had a credit score where people laughed at me. I'm telling you, I once was living paycheck to paycheck. Like I said, I'm not a millionaire yet, but
Yet.
I know that's where I'm going.
Awesome.
And, wherever I have already been delivered from, I can help bring somebody to this point. So I'm an open book. I'm pretty honest about where I am and what I've been through. So definitely no judgment, because
Right.
we've all been there. And my parents have helped me kick myself in gear, because I didn't think I mean, I knew they were gonna get older, but I didn't know they were gonna get older and maybe a little feeble and maybe need me. So it's a lot of things to think about. And so I just say, as you're thinking, like Tanya saying, just take those time and think about where you need to go, and then just take the time to get there.
Okay. With that being
Hey,
said,
thank you,
thank you
Tanya.
so
I
much.
appreciate
You're
you
welcome. All right. Take
helping me
care.
to live courageously.
Thanks. All right. Take care. Bye for
Bye.
now.